Tajikistan was not only the final stop of my Central Asia journey, but also the most anticipated part, as I could finally embark on the adventure along the Pamir Highway. I crossed the land border from Samarkand to Panjshir, then took a car to Dushanbe, officially beginning my travels in Tajikistan. The next day after obtaining the GBAO permit, we wandered around a few places. Although Dushanbe is the capital of Tajikistan, it feels relatively underwhelming compared to the capitals of other Central Asian countries. Interestingly, whether in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, or Uzbekistan, most people's first reaction upon hearing Chinese was Jackie Chan, but here taxi drivers would say Bruce Lee. We decided to take public transport to Khorog and then hire a private vehicle to travel along the Pamir Highway. Sadly, a journey that was supposed to take 14 hours according to the map ended up taking almost 24 hours. We rushed to the station at about 7 o'clock, then waited for over 3 hours before finally setting off. The fact once again proved that in Central Asia, punctuality does not exist. During the day, every time the driver stopped for a break, everyone got out to stretch their legs and enjoy the surroundings. As night fell, we came to a stop in Kalaikon, a small town where the Pamir Highway meets the Panj River. We strolled along the main road and children came running from all directions. After taking some photos, a girl gave me 2 flowers. As we walked further, a lady by the roadside waved me over and handed me a bag of apricots. I asked if I could take a photo for her, but she refused. Back in the minivan, I shared the apricots with everyone and gave the flowers to the granny who had offered me chocolate candy earlier in the day. She happily pinned them to her bag. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the light of the rising sun bathed the distant mountain. We would be arriving in Khorog in a few more hours. Khorog is the capital of Gorno-Badakhshan. For most travelers, it serves primarily as a transit point for journeys along the Pamir Highway or into the Wakhan Valley. Since it's the last city with large stores, one should stock up on items that they need for the next few days. After resting for a while, we visited the Botanic Garden at sunset, overlooking the entire city. Our plan is to travel from Khorog along the Pamir Highway, traverse the Wakhan Valley, then proceed to Murghab, and finally return to China via the Kulma Pass. The Wakhan corridor is a narrow panhandle extending from Afghanistan's Badakhshan province. Geographically, it's divided by the Panj River, with the northern part belonging to Tajikistan, often called the Wakhan Valley, and the southern part to Afghanistan, known as the Wakhan Corridor. This region borders Pakistan to the south and China's Xinjiang to the east, creating a fascinating geopolitical conference. The terrain is dominated by the towering peaks of the Pamir and Hindu Kush mountain ranges. It was established in the 19th century as a buffer zone between British and Russian empires. For centuries, the Wakhan was not a border but a crucial Silk Road route, connecting the Tarim Basin to Badakhshan and facilitating trade and cultural exchange between China, Central, and South Asia. The Pamir Highway, also known as M41, is one of the world's most epic and adventurous road trips. Traversing the high-altitude landscapes of Central Asia, often referred to as the roof of the world, it follows an ancient Silk Road route used by traders, pilgrims, and explorers like Marco Polo. The highway spans approximately 1,250 kilometers, typically traversed from Osh to Dushanbe or vice versa. During my travel in 2023, the border crossing between the two countries was closed, forcing many travelers to do a loop route starting and ending in Dushanbe. Drive to the Wakhan Valley continued to follow the Panj River just as our journey from Dushanbe to Khorog had. On both sides, the landscape was dominated by arid brown mountains. Along the way, we caught a distant glimpse of two Afghan girls playing by the river. An hour later, we passed a checkpoint. After that, patches of oases began to appear on the Afghan side of the river, dotted with small houses. We also spotted two trucks moving through the area, presumably by the Taliban. As we approached Ishkashim, the Panj River widened, and its torrential flow gave way to a calmer pace. Large, beautiful meadows lined the riverbanks, with occasional glimpses of cattle and sheep grazing. Ishkashim is the regional center of the Wakhan area and also marks the starting point of both the Wakhan Valley and the Wakhan Corridor. With an Afghan visa, one could travel from here into the Wakhan Corridor. After 6 hours, we arrived in Ishkashim, where we would spend the first night at a homestay located very close to Bibi Fatima hot spring. This is our room. Through the window, we could see the snow-capped Hindu Kush mountains in the distance. The next morning, I enjoyed my breakfast while admiring the view of the Hindu Kush Mountains. After breakfast, the young sister suggested I visit Bibi Fatima hot spring one more time, mentioning it would be good for my health. I took her advice.
Hello.
Hot spring water is rich in minerals such as sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and other elements. It's believed to have powerful healing properties, particularly in increasing women's fertility. Yesterday, when I entered the women's change room, I was quite shy to see a group of naked women there. They chatted casually while changing clothes, and when they noticed me, they smiled and waved, inviting me to join. I walked into the pool, half concealing myself with a towel. There were both elderly women and young children inside. It was a brand new yet delightful experience. I did something I had never tried before. Not far from our homestay is the famous Yamchun fortress, built in 3rd century BCE. The Zoroastrian fortress perched at approximately 3,200 meters above sea level on a hill. It overlooks the Panj River, with breathtaking views of the Hindu Kush Mountains on the Afghan side. Due to ravages of time, weather, and earthquakes, most of the fortress is in ruins. Then we headed to the village of Yam. As we walked into a museum, an old man played a song for us on the rhubarb.
It's there.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Outside, yeah.
Later, we climbed a hill above the village of Vrang, where there stood a fire-tiled pyramid stupa, entirely different from any other stupas we've seen elsewhere. Across from the stupa, we could see dozens of caves where hermits once meditated in the mountain wall. Standing on the hill overlooking Vrang, we saw a verdant valley embraced by distant snow-white mountains. At that moment, the poetic pastoral scenery unfolded before our eyes. We came across some local kids and I took a few photos of them. As we were about to leave, the girl told Dayla that she wanted to invite us to her home. The moment I stepped inside, I was instantly drawn to the vast, large garden. In the center stood a wooden structure which I was told had been built recently for a visit by the president to their home. Further ahead was a shrine with the horse of Marco Polo ship as offerings. This authentic Vahi house was incredibly soothing. Since we had to head to Langar, we only had a short while to stroll around before leaving. After 2 hours on the gravel road, we reached Langar, the last village in the Wakhan Valley. This village offers the most idyllic rural scenery one could ever imagine. The young girl at the homestay was very kind. She showed me around the village, took me to a small folk museum, and found a boy to guide me to see the petroglyphs. Most of the petroglyphs we saw were depictions of Marco Polo ship and ibex. The slab offers a perfect vantage point to take in the panoramic views of the valley, the river, and the snow-capped mountains. At dusk, we took a walk through the village. A couple waved us over from a distance. We chatted for a while. I asked the woman how she spoke English so well, and she told me she was an English teacher here. Her husband was nearby, tidying up around their house. Further down, we came across a field filled with blooming flowers. The irrigation system was so impressively well built that I couldn't help but marvel. Even in such a remote village, people use their ingenuity to make the most of their lives. We spent 2 days in the Wakhan Valley, and on the third day we rejoined the Pamir Highway and continued towards Murghab. After a 10-minute drive from Langar, we reached the confluence of the Pamir and the Wakhan River, which also marks the end of Wakhan Valley. Ten minutes later, we encountered the roughest road of the entire trip, huge potholes and countless rocks. Fortunately, Taylor's exceptional driving skills got us through the bumpy road. As the journey continued, the altitude kept rising, and the landscape gradually became bleak and barren. After a brief stop at the Coldest checkpoint, we drove away from the border with Afghanistan and continued north onto the Pamir Highway, passing through the highest point of the road, the Khorog Pass, with a height of 4,344 meters above sea level. To step into this no man's land evoked a profound solitude and freedom, a world away from human civilization. The village of Bulunkul is known as one of the coldest inhabited places in Central Asia, with a record minimum temperature of -63 degrees Celsius. Actually, it's hard for us to imagine how those people have lived in this remote village without running water or electricity. Alicho, not far from Bulunkul, is another village in the middle of nowhere. The majority of the locals living here are ethnic Kyrgyz, and the rest are the Pamiri Tajiks. As we approach Murghab, our journey along the Pamir Highway was gradually drawing to a close. Traversing the Wakhan Valley and the Pamir Highway has already become a once-in-a-lifetime journey. I feel so lucky to witness these majestic landscapes as remote and isolated as the Martian surface, and to see how people have used wisdom and resilience to sustain their lives for generations in such a harsh environment. Murghab is a remote high-altitude town in the Pamir Mountains at an elevation of approximately 3,650 meters. The surrounding landscape consists mostly of a desolate plateau with scattered mountains. Like Lichu, Murghab is also a place where traditional Kyrgyz nomadic practices blend with Pamiri and Tajik influences. For us, Murghab is a transit point where we end our journey along the Pamir Highway and proceed to the Kulma Pass. The next day, when the Mustafa Ata peak suddenly appeared before my eyes, I realized that it's time to say goodbye. After passing through the checkpoint, I hopped on a truck and headed towards China's Khersu port, marking the official end of my journey through Central Asia.